Welcome to Grandpa Hill's Stories. I am Grandpa Hill. For my children, my grandchildren, and all children, what you're about to hear really happened to me. I'm sitting here with two of my grandchildren and their father, my son, and his wife. I am about to tell them a Grandpa Hill true story. It is about a time when I lost my son and he was lost with the kitties. Okay, so this story is about how to keep track of your children at the zoo. I mean, this really shouldn't be that difficult. Now, nowadays, some people keep track of their children at the zoo.
With leashes.
With leashes, yes. Because they get used to running off. And that's not the way that Grandpa was and Grandma. The children, all not perfect or anything, but they pretty much stayed with us and they didn't run away and they didn't go hide or anything like that. Well, part of the system, I should say, is that you might have read the Curious George book.
Yeah.
And what does the man wear?
Yellow hat.
Yeah. So what did I wear when I went to the zoo?
Yellow hat.
A yellow shirt.
Oh.
Yeah. So I had a yellow shirt. And that's when in fact, if the children saw me wearing a yellow shirt, we knew we were going somewhere where they could get lost. So as we're in the crowds, there's not that many people wearing yellow shirts unless you go down to Florida. But this was like in Columbus, Ohio. And at that time, we really didn't have like 8 children to keep track of. There was just like 3 of them. And one of them was like a baby. So like your dad was like 3 years old or so, 3, maybe 4. In the early 80s, early 1980s, get us in the right century. In case these stories are listened to much later. So anyway, we're at the zoo and we're doing just fine. And we've been looking at the fish and the lions and all this stuff and the monkeys and the gorilla. Very exciting stuff. It was exciting to me. I hadn't been to a zoo for a long time. And we were with friends, Uncle John and Aunt Cheryl and their children were all there having a wonderful time at the Columbus City Zoo. And then Brian is missing. And we have to go look for him. And we're looking and running, and we go to the information desk and all the rest of that. And we eventually, it doesn't seem like a long time. I mean, it seemed like a long time, but it really wasn't. It might have been 15 or 20 minutes, but that's a long time. If you think of a child that could be taken away from you or really lost or really hurt or anything at a zoo. And sometimes accidents happen and sometimes crimes happen. So we were getting pretty disturbed about what happened to our son, but we're not yelling and screaming at people. But we did go to the desk for information and people to start looking for him or Paige or whatever. They're looking for this boy of ours. And then we hear over the speakers, well, the man with the yellow shirt, Mr. Hill, please come to, and I can't remember exactly where it was, but there was a desk that we were supposed to go to. When we got there, we were so happy to see your dad. Unfortunately, Grandpa's memory isn't always as good as he'd like it to be. But as I've been recently informed, that's not exactly what happened. So there was no page, there was no man on a speaker mentioning anything about a yellow shirt. That's the way I dreamt and imagined it would happen, that my system for keeping track of the children would work. Instead, we got back together with Brian but Brian had given a description of what we were wearing the day before. So when it came to understanding that we were the parents, the yellow shirt didn't make a lot of sense to the officials. So there was some explaining to do. And the joy from Brian and the joy from Grandma was so high, and it was so obvious as Brian came riding up on a golf cart along with the officers to greet us. It was a very short discussion. He was obviously our son. So we got back together with Brian. And we hugged him, and we were happy, and we made him feel happy. And we really didn't know what had happened to our son. Where did we lose him? What happened? Where has he been? We talked to Brian about your dad, about where was he? And he says, I was petting the kitties. What kitties? Well, we find out from the park people, at the zoo people, that he had gone to the very back of the compound or the fencing that holds the leopards. And he was putting his hands through that, 2-inch square trying to pet the kitty.
Did you actually pet them?
I don't think he petted them. But that's where they found him, and they rescued him out of there and then got him to his parents. And we went home, and we had a lovely story to tell some 40 years later.
I'm glad Grandma and Grandpa found Brian.
Yeah, they sure were happy to be back together.
I guess Grandpa Hill had to start using leashes.
I don't think so. I've never seen a leash on one of his children. He wore a yellow shirt for many, many years. Maybe even 25 years. But I'm not very good at math.
But you heard him. His system didn't work. He must have lost lots of children, lots of times.
I think after Brian got lost with the kitties, he perfected his system. Grandpa always reviews with the younger ones what the yellow shirt was being worn for, to help them get back together if they got separated. And Grandpa and Grandma would always remember what the children were wearing too.
Was that so Grandma and Grandpa wouldn't get lost?
No, Gorf. It was part of his great system. Everybody would know how to describe everybody else.
Oh yeah, and nobody got lost ever again.
Not exactly.
Who got lost again?
I think it was Brian.
Did Grandpa forget to wear his yellow shirt?
No. Grandpa always remembered to wear his shirt.
Well, what went wrong?
Grandpa forgot Brian.
Oh boy.